For me to communicate to my partner, I am somebody who wants to be in a committed relationship. I am somebody who wants to be sexually intimate with one person. I want that with the same the other one. That is what I want from you. Is that something that you can provide? Because if it's not, I would rather you let me know up front, because that's what I want. And then to say it's I'm forcing you. I'm like, no, my friend, I'm an adult and I'm laying out my expectations so nobody is unclear about what it is that they want. The thing that we have to accept, and I will talk about this as a woman because we're really talking about this in terms of a guy who doesn't want to be monogamous. So if it is the woman that wants to be monogamous, you need to be able to accept that the answer might be no.
Welcome to Ethnically Speaking. I'm your host Monah, and today I'm joined by Nushy Rose and Sophie Hannah. Today we'll be talking about monogamy. My question is it fair to force men into monogamous relationships?
This is a very problematic question.
Agreed.
What do we mean by forcing men into monogamous relationships? Okay, so I have many issues with this question. But
I was going to say I have many men. Honestly, that's what you
that too. And open to more. Never too much. But I just think, first thing is, are relationships just sex? I think it's reductive. Like, the reason you want to be with someone, even if the sex is amazing, is, one presumes not just to have sex. You're not going to be having sex literally all day, every day for the rest of your life. You die. And so I think that is one thing. And so it's very reductive. The second is, it assumes that women are there to please men, right? So the woman exists, or like her loving her is conditional on her providing you with sexual satisfaction. And the woman becomes the agent through which the man reaches orgasm, because it's dependent on his sex drive rather than hers. And so the assumptions in it are reductive to women as a sex object, reductive to relationships as just pure sex all the time, and that's the only reason you'd wish to be with someone. And I think that inequality around both those things is deeply problematic. But of course, no man or woman should be forced into a monogamous relationship.
Who is forcing anybody into what? Somebody needs to answer that question for me, please, because I have never asked myself out. I have never asked myself on a date. It has always been the guy who was asked to be with me. So this whole thing about forcing, no one has laid a gun to your head. As much as you may feel some sort of pressure from whoever you're with, you made a choice. And I don't like this giving up of responsibility and accountability of, you made a choice to be there. If you don't want to be there, then don't be there. Don't complain and say, well, if I never got with her, I wouldn't get the sex. My friend, that is on you. Like, that is on you. That is not my decision to make. That is not my choice to make. If that's the sort of thing that she said to you or implied to you, you need to decide if you want to be with her enough, or if it's just about the sex, find someone else to have sex. And we are in the Tinder age, people. It is not difficult.
I was going to say, but I feel like you kind of just answered that, Sophie. When you were saying this about a relationship isn't just about sex, I think you're going to find in today's age, people do have relationships where it is just for sex. Like, people have multiple partners and they kind of like compartmentalize what they want from each person. So this person might be the one that you're happy to introduce to mum. This might be the one that you want to have sex with. This might be the one that's convenient. And it's so horrible to say, but I genuinely feel like that is how people move these days.
I guess the issue that I have with this whole monogamy and forcing men and is monogamy. I'll say mahogany or monogamy. Monogamy. We're not talking. We are talking about wood.
Plot twist.
But we are talking about monogamy. Let me keep it all the way on track, ladies, before we go off on this one. We're talking about monogamy, and my thing with that is, when we hear about people saying they're not monogamous anymore, we're not talking about polygamy, it seems. We're just talking about the ability to be able to sleep with as many women as you want to and not be able to commit. Or on the flip side, to be able to not commit, but to still get all the benefits of a relationship. And for me, I'm like, that is confusing, because if we're talking about polygamy, polygamists will tell you it's not that I'm just having sex with maybe one or multiple people. I'm in a committed relationship with multiple people. I am giving myself emotionally, sexually, probably mentally, probably financially, to a variety of people, men or women, depending on what your preference is. When people use it as I'm not monogamous, and men weren't meant to be, I shouldn't just have to, supply myself to just one woman. I'm like, all I hear is the sex talk. And that for me, I'm like, this isn't what the conversation is about, but now it seems like it's been used as an excuse to allow people to entertain the lifestyle that they want to. And my thing is, do that, but do it with integrity. Don't have the baby mother over here and the one that can meet your mum and the sex over here. You need to be upfront that I just want to have sex with a variety of women, and I would like it if in exchange you can cook for me and come out with me sometimes, or have my child, and then let the woman make a choice, and vice versa. Let me be able to make an informed choice as to whether I want to join you in that lifestyle.
Yeah, I completely agree. Do you think that monogamy is real? Do you think it's a social construct? What do you think?
Like, monogamy is definitely, like, is it natural? I don't think, like, there's so many scientific studies, right, that show that monogamy most likely isn't natural. But then I'm thinking, there's a reason that we've evolved to be a monogamous society. And there's also a reason that now that's kind of dispersing, like, as you were saying, that people are having different, like, atraditional forms of relationship, right? But it's the same way, look, like, veganism isn't natural for humans. We're meant to be omnivorous. And yet, like, we're at a point in climate change where actually a lot of people are consciously making the decision to eat meat-free or plant-based meals or whatever it might be. That may not be natural, but actually it makes sense. And it makes sense for the society we live in now. And I think that it's the same with monogamy, like the origins of monogamy are, these ancient societies where actually it was ruled that you have to be monogamous so that, like, to stop competition between men and get them to actually focus on what they were doing rather than, like, catching all the ladies. And so I'm thinking it's an ordering principle. It's a way that society, it helps create order in society. And, like, it's now used as a foundation for legal principles where you have a foundation of marriage or whatever. And in today's society, is it outdated? Maybe. And does that make it unnatural? Is it unnatural? Yes. Like, if we talk about, like, marriage or monogamy in sort of recent history, it's about the women being the property of the man, right? And all that kind of thing. And so is it time that we diversify? I do think, like, things like polyamory do make sense now, I think, completely, because they're in line with the way society is changing and evolving and the way that we think and sort of behave as a society or societies. But does it mean that it doesn't work? No. So I just think it's about personal choice and it not being, like, the only way to live. No.
When I think about it being a social construct, I think that I do agree that it is a social construct. And I think that it's done in a way to benefit men and limit women, because when I hear conversations about monogamy, like you said, Sophie, I hear a lot about the sex part, and I don't really hear other avenues being taken into consideration. And I think that majority of the time when you have conversations and men speak about sleeping with multiple women, there seems to be this general theme of, like, okay, well, like, you just take it on the chin. When women are brought to the conversation and women are the ones talking about sleeping with multiple partners, so many things come into play. Her character gets questioned, her being a good mother gets pulled into question. So many things that are very, very abstract and shouldn't be brought to the table if it's not going to be men that answer the same questions too. I don't understand why it's kind of like one rule for men and one rule for women when it comes to sleeping with multiple people.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think, I don't want to talk about the sexism card, but I have to put it in there. I think part of it is sexism because, at least for, not forever, but at least for the last few centuries, sex has been seen as something that is supposed to be for men, heterosexual men, cisgendered men, to enjoy, to find pleasure from, and a woman's pleasure has been second. And that for me is always very problematic when we're talking about, a man is a sexual being, and I was like, a woman isn't a sexual being? Like, we don't have sexual desires as well? And I know this whole question, I think, is kind of based on that video that went viral of that podcast of that husband and wife, and they were talking about it, and he was saying, you forced me into monogamy because you said you wanted to kind of take the step in your life, and now your sex drive doesn't match mine. And she was just like, I don't. And for me, I just felt very unhappy about that and uncomfortable, because I'm like, yeah, maybe your wife isn't going to be in the mood all of the time. But did you just get married to her and been like, because I married you now, you need to meet every sexual desire I have every single time? And I'm like, your relationship has to be more than that. Mm-hmm. And the woman has to give as well. There needs to be compromise. You can't, for me personally, I can't be denying my husband sex every single week, every single day, every single month. Like, people having sex 2 times a month for me is just ludicrous. Like I, not only do I enjoy sex, but for me, I feel like sex in our relationship, sex in our marriage is something that we both knew going in and signing up for. And yeah, every time, as soon as it starts, I might not be in the mood, but you know what, it's good. You'll get there in the end. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be enjoyable. But feeling like now that I'm married, well, because I gave you a ring, every time I want sex, you need to deliver. I just feel like that, where is the love in that? Where is the mutual, the compromise in that? For me, it just feels very uncomfortable. And it makes me think about that idea of, who does monogamy benefit? Men or women? And I think when I heard him saying that, I'm like, so you feel like because you got what you want, which is basically a ring, now what do I get from the deal? And when we deal with relationships as terms of like a deal or a trade, I have a problem with that. But what do you guys think? Yeah.
Who do you feel benefits from monogamy, men or women?
I mean, I don't think either particularly benefits, like more than the other.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's an ending to that sentence.
Like, I'm pro-monogamy, but I'm pro-monogamy for myself because I am a very jealous, well, I'm not necessarily jealous, but I think that if I want a relationship, if I'm seeking a relationship rather than me like swiping on Tinder and thinking like, okay, see you later kind of vibe, I want a relationship because I want to build something with that person. And of course, like part of that is sex, but I mean, it's not like the only thing I like want to do all day, every day. Like I also want to, I want to get rich. Like I want someone that drives me forward to like learn things and do things and have fun and like, in my career, whatever it might be. So like sex is one element of like a huge complex of things, right? And so I think everyone benefits from monogamy. Like if you kind of, like in a sort of fair thing. The thing that I did find interesting though, when we're kind of like going back to the origins of monogamy, is this idea that actually it serves men, right? So this idea that, it stops competition between men because there's all these theories at the moment, like I can't stand him, but like Jordan Peterson, who says, if monogamy didn't exist, men would be super violent towards each other, fighting against each other to get the women, or women would be fighting to get all hustling to get the sort of more attractive men, or whatever it might be. And like I think that just simplifies what humans are so much. I don't think that men are really violent and women are really desperate, like hunting for a prize. But the whole point of that theory is it says that women now with this more equal playing field, they don't have to rely on a man financially. It's now screwing them over by sort of like having to stick to one man. It's no longer like all these women going for like the prize, which is the man. But my personal view is at a point where it is level playing field and we're both financial equals, one hopes. It's mutually beneficial.
I feel as well that it is mutually beneficial. And I think one of the issues that I have with this debate that talks about monogamy and, men don't benefit from it as much because, women get everything. They get, security, they get this, they get that. My thing is like I believe men want those things too. And I think it's so reductive when we make it out like men don't want to be in relationships that are emotionally supportive and that they want stability or that they want care or they want support or family, all these things that tend to happen in the West in committed relationships between two people. That's what we're talking about here. And to say that men don't really want that, or men don't naturally want that, I honestly feel like it's reductive because like I said, I've never asked myself out and I can't even think of myself pushing. Like it's always guys that have really wanted to be with me and then have asked to be in a relationship because they want to let me know you are the one that I want to focus on right now. This is the place that I want to be. And this idea that for men, it's just so unbelievable that they would want to commit to one person, I feel uncomfortable with it. And I think, as Nushy was saying, from like a historical perspective, it wasn't even every man in the village that had 10 wives. It was one who had wealth, status, power. We're talking about kings, we're talking about noblemen. It wasn't the everyday man on the street. The everyday man on the street had one wife. Because when you had multiple, it was a sign of something and you were also able to provide for those plethora of women. Now, are we talking about that in this day and age? And men aren't saying that I want to have all three of you on the panel because I want to provide for all of you. And no, you're not saying that. You're saying you just want to sample Sierra Leone, Sri Lanka, and a little bit of the Caribbean. So I am not here. I am not here for it.
You know what? I don't actually know who it benefits because I think that the whole way that people view sex, and I know it's not all about sex, but it's a very large portion of it. I think the way that people view sex right now and the relationship they have with sex is very warped. And
Yes,
I think
girl.
that both genders have a very warped relationship when it comes to sex. Not everyone, but a load of people. Now, whether that's got to do with social construct, whether it's got to do with religion, whether it's got to do with culture, there's a lot of taboos in sex. And I think people internalize that and then it becomes self-projected into relationships that they have with other people. Because if I think about a man sleeping with multiple women, and this is not a jab, I'm just speaking my truths, to me, that would mean that you must be good at sex because you must know how to please loads of women because you have sex loads of the time. So if you're having sex with multiple women and you have sex on a regular basis and you're not actually that good at sex, you're guaranteed to come every single time. For a woman, it's not that simple to have an orgasm. What are you doing? To me, you're a selfish. To me, don't want to say it without swearing. To me, you're a selfish man. Let's put it like that, when you're in that situation. So for women, it would make more sense to me if they were the ones who were like, actually, monogamy is not for me because I find it hard to sexually be pleasured. So I'm going to sample different men till I find the one that XYZ. It's not the same for men and women in that sense. So you're engaging in sex for what reasons? Now, some people say that, I'm just having sex to have sex, but there is science behind it. So if you look at all the animals in the kingdom, us and I think chimps are the only one that have sex face to face, and usually it's from behind because we bond with people in that way.
And humans or animals, actually.
Usually it's to bond in that way, right? And people really want to just ridicule, like bring sex down to it's very animalistic. It's not just that. There's hormones that get released. You get connections with these people. I think it's dangerous if you try to reduce sex to just some physical act that you do when you want to do it and take away from the fact that there is no connection being built with people, because I think there is. And if you don't lay out what your intentions are, like you said, Sophie, it can really bring in a lot of drama. So, which ties me on to my next question. Do you feel that by people laying out their expectations and saying exactly what it is, do you feel that is forcing a monogamous relationship upon someone?
No. No, I don't think it is.
No.
This is something that my mum said to me growing up. It was not about monogamy, but sometimes I'd ask her for things. And I said to her, I don't know if I want to ask you because I feel like you're going to say no. And she was like, yeah, I could. Because you're asking me a question and the answer could be no. And that's something that I've really taken into my adult life. And I said to my nieces, like literally the other day, but the point is, if I tell you what I need from you, if I tell you my expectations, which you need to do in a relationship, people need to understand what it is that you want, and what it is that you need. Someone asked me the other day, like, what do you need from people when you're upset? Like, what do you need? Like, is it a hug that makes you feel better? Is it what you like? What do you need? Because you need to be able to communicate that. And for me to communicate to my partner, I am somebody who wants to be in a committed relationship. I am somebody who wants to be sexually intimate with one person. I want that with the same the other one. That is what I want from you. Is that something that you can provide? Because if it's not, I would rather you let me know up front, because that's what I want. And then to say I'm forcing you. I'm like, no, my friend, I'm an adult and I'm laying out my expectations so nobody is unclear about what it is that they want. The thing that we have to accept, and I will talk about this as a woman because we're really talking about this in terms of a guy who doesn't want to be monogamous. So if it is the woman that wants to be monogamous, you need to be able to accept that the answer might be no. And let me tell you something. If it is not a yes, I want to do that, it is a no. If they do not say yes, if they say, let me think about it, with my ex, we had a bit of a different situation and it worked quite well. And I thought that if it's if it's not a yes, it's a no. And you need to be willing to accept that no and be like, you can't give me what I want, so we need to part ways. I don't care how nice you are. I don't care how big the energy is that you're coming with. I don't care about it, because what I need is not what you're able to provide.
What would you like to add, Nushy?
Sorry, guys.
It sounds like she literally silenced you.
No. I just what was I going to say? No, all I was going to say is that I mean, I completely agree with you. I do think that like everything's a choice, and I think that if a guy doesn't agree, I think what I'm saying is, I think if every single man refused to be in a monogamous relationship with women, all the men that were into monogamous relationships would suddenly, regardless of how great they were or terrible they were in bed, whatever they looked like, whether they were, actually shorter or whatever it might be, all these things obviously beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But those would be the most popular men. Those, like, the way that we calibrate kind of what is attractive to us, those people, I'm sure, would be chased after wherever they had been in the food chain beforehand. And the men who were refusing, who believed suddenly they have this influx of women chasing after them, I'm pretty sure after 6 months, those women would leave, because actually having all that freedom is fun, but most people don't want that forever. And the men who don't want to be in monogamous relationships forever would not suddenly find there were these incredibly attractive men like shagging left, right, and centre Monday to Sunday. They would probably be pretty lonely after a year or two. And yeah, that's pretty much, like, when we talk about this being gendered, I think that men have this really inflated sense of self. I saw this thing on Instagram yesterday, which was this man. He was like, all of you guys out there who seem to think that if you're like, your girlfriend should be grateful to be with you. And he was like, I just created as a joke, like, for fun, a Tinder for my girlfriend using her pictures. With 1 hour, she had 2,000 likes. He's like, she did the same for me. I had one. And like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's like men have this really warped sense of their own attractiveness. The levels are never equal. Women, in my view, are much more attractive than men in general. As soon as, like, the men take themselves off the table for what most women want, they're out. Like, these women will never not be in demand so yeah, that's my opinion.
I have to agree with you. I think what's annoying right now is there's a lot of situations where men are monogamous but they don't want to get into exclusive relationships, and it's like, so then what does that mean? Like, and there's a lot of grey area there. Why are you smiling like that, Sophie?
It's not a grey area, they just don't like you enough.
Do you think?
Yes, it's not a grey area. Like, if a guy wants to be with you, if he wants to commit, he's going to commit. Like, if he is saying, I am a monogamous person, but I don't want to be exclusive, it's because something in his head is saying that this isn't the girl that I really want to be with, but she's okay for now. And I saw it on Sex and the City, and they were like, this is going to change your life. He's just not that into you. And it is very true. Again, I talk of this as women. If we were able to accept that, and I didn't accept this probably in my late teens, early 20s. He's just not that into you. That's why he's not committing. That's why he's not messaging as much. He's just not that into you. And if we're able to tell ourselves that, we can walk away and find somebody who is into us, because I feel like men are very, very black and white. I think they're very black and white. A lot of them, I find most men won't even lie to you. If you ask them directly, where is this going? Do you want us to be together? They'll be like, well, I'm focused on my business right now. It's a no. That's what it means. So accept the no. And
I would say, I do agree with you to a certain extent, but there are a lot of people who are in situationships, whatever you want to call it. And some people have gone on to then be in a relationship. It's like, that's the step before seeing each other, being exclusive. So I get what you mean about if he was that into you, then you would know what it is from the beginning. But a lot of people are now taking that step where they are sleeping with each other, sleeping with other people, seeing where it goes. It seems to be that's like the pattern. Then they're in a situationship, then they start seeing each other, then they're exclusive, boom, then they're in a relationship.
So do you think that is the norm, or do you think it's like those people are exceptions, or do you feel like it's, no, this is the way people happen to get into relationships nowadays?
I wouldn't practice it because I don't think that it sits right for my principles, and I don't think that it's the norm, but I think that behaviour is now being normalised.
Okay. Yeah. I think for me, I'm just not on board with that as well. Because I'm just like, if you're just not ready, then I'm like, that's cool. Like, if you do get ready, you know where I'm at. And yeah, I just can't sacrifice what it is that I want and what I want for my life because you want to sleep around. Like, go do that.
If you were dating or seeing a man who wasn't necessarily monogamous, but then says, okay, I might try it this way, and enters a monogamous relationship with you, do you feel like you could trust him? Or do you feel like you would trust
this
him?
happened to me actually.
Oh, really?
I do you know what? I should have known you had a story on this. I'm not gonna lie.
No, basically what happened is, so I started dating this guy. I wasn't into him at all, but
why'd you start dating him if he wasn't into it?
Do you know what? If you let answer that, we're gonna come off track. You need to come back to that one because I agree.
No, do you know what? He had a heart of gold.
Okay.
And I think he was just quite troubled, But so he was chasing me. He even third day after we met, he even turned up at my work, right? So he was super into me. I think I was just going through a kind of lonely period in my life. Anyway, we started dating, and I kept refusing him. I kept breaking up. I kept ending things, and so on and so on and so on. Then kind of like a few months into the relationship, he didn't agree ethically with monogamy. And wait, I told you guys a story. But basically, when like fast forward loads of months, I came back from holiday, and then my mum was like to me, "He's cheating on you."
Yes.
This is the guy. This is the
Why
guy.
why did he ethically not? Because her mum said he's cheating on you, and she was like, "No, he's not." And then that night, he was just like, "I have something to tell you.
Yes,
I'm cheating, and I want us to be.
Yes.
Yes, I want us to all be together."
I do not remember this story.
Really? Yes, I remember this story.
And then they said, "Don't worry." He said, "Don't worry. She's also seeing a Big Daddy." I was like, "Okay." I was like, "I don't know who Big Daddy is." I was like,
do you know what? That's what always pees me off. These guys, some of these guys that will fight to be with you, and then they act a fool. And I'm just like, no, I actually condescended.
I'm
to
interested.
give you a chance, and now you are acting like some wild child out here. No, that stuff upsets me.
Exactly. I mean, and also I will say, I mean, obviously it's not about this, but I was the prize.
Always the prize.
Always.
No, seriously, I was. I'm just like. But yeah, so this is the thing. I mean, one time in my life it happened. I think if people really ethically don't believe in monogamy, they just don't. But the same way that I don't think I will ever believe in, I think it's unlikely that I would ever want to be in a relationship, a polyamorous relationship. I have nothing against it. I think do whatever you want, sleep with whoever you want to be in, like be open about it. But for me, that's not what I would want. And so would I trust someone again who was polyamorous but wanted to be with me? No.
I'm interested to know why he didn't want to be in a monogamous relationship before.
So am I.
But I never explained it to you. I thought you said this like that was the pretense of he explained it to you, and he was like, "Oh, okay, you kind of won me over." Oh, he never explained it to you.
Oh no, basically no. He just said, because you don't want, you're not into polyamory yourself. He's like, I just want to be with you. I just want to be with you. I just want to be with you.
Okay.
Yeah. And then turned out I've been talking to many others. Others, especially Tanya, if you're watching.
That wasn't a personal shout out. That was just a roast. Yeah.
Do you think that men who are polyamorous use it as an excuse just to sleep with multiple women?
Yes, I think. Okay, let me rephrase that. I think some people are polyamorous, and I think that, that's the lifestyle that they want to explore, and that's the lifestyle that they're comfortable with. And I also think that there is a current crop of men that I believe are trying to jump on the bandwagon, as I said earlier, and not wanting to commit and have fulfilling relationships with 3 women. They want to take the parts that they want. And I think this is the bit that I have an issue with when certain men complain about monogamy. They want various things that a woman would want in a relationship. They still want that. And they still want those things. They just don't want to have to commit for it. When that woman is like, for me, this comes with commitment. And for me, I'm like, you can't have it all. You can't, like, you have to decide if you want to have those emotional ties and those things that aren't just about the sex, which I think it is about a lot of times when this conversation is being had. But, the support when you've had a hard day at work. Like all those other things that make a relationship worthwhile as well. But you're saying that you want to extract all the nuggets, gold nuggets from it, and then you just want to leave off the fact that you don't ever want to get married and you don't want to this and you don't want to. You just stop with the excuses.
I have to agree. I think the fact that there are those types of men who are doing that, it does cast a bad name over all the men in general, or men who are polyamorous. And I think for women, it puts them in a really hard position, because it's easy to say, going off what you said, okay, he just might not be that into you, so walk away. It's actually not really that easy, because there seems to be an abundance of women that men can choose from who are like good women and bring a lot to the table. And for women, it might not necessarily be the same. And I know from like my pool of friends and even myself, if I'm involved in someone and I'm dating someone, you do forge a connection. And I'm not someone who believes in like having options. So just in case this one doesn't work out, I've got someone dibble-dabbling, because people aren't objects. You don't put them somewhere and leave them there and you can go back to them. To me, you must be watering other plants whilst you're in this situation. So then it kind of brings a bit of morals into question, like, are you really committed in that situation? Which is like another kettle of fish to open up to. But I just think it does really put people in a dangerous situation, because there's so much grey areas here, only because people are not being true with their intentions.
I guess for me, like, do you really believe, like, I hear what you're saying in terms of, and correct me if I'm wrong, like, it's not that easy to walk away when feelings are already invested and you invested time in this person to just be like, they're not committing, they're not really that into me, let me walk away. Do you think that for the majority of people or the people in your social circle who have decided to kind of stick around in that situation, that majority have eventually turned into a relationship? Because I guess for me, it's just about the wasting of my time. Like for me, that's what really gets to me. And I base that on an experience I had with a specific guy who, honestly, like I said, I think he's just probably the most attractive guy I've ever dated. Like for me, everything that I liked physically in a man he had. And well, not everything, but majority. And he had wanted me a lot more when we were like, we grew up in the same area. So when we was younger, he really, really chased me. Then when we got a bit older, I was like, oh, okay, yeah. Let me see what's going on there. And he was just like, he wasn't at the right time in his life, and he wasn't this, he wasn't that. But he loved chatting together. He met my family, came to get food after the family barbecue, and all this stuff. And I just had to be like, what is going on? Because I feel like we're moving towards something, but we're not. And I said to him, I was going away for work, and I said to him, look, I'm going away for 2 weeks. Take 2 weeks, decide what it is that you want. If you want something more, contact me. If not, just don't contact me. Because I was just like, I'm just going to keep falling for you. And we're going to keep, then he'll be like, I like you and I want to be around you and blah, blah, blah. And I just never heard from him. And it hurt. It did hurt. Because like I said, for me, this was at a stage where I was actually thinking about who I want to spend my life with now, because this was my latter 20s. I was thinking, actually, I'm ready to kind of be in a long-term committed relationship. And because we had kind of known each other in the past, I thought, yeah, this is adding up. The way he looks, I'm so attracted to him. This is all really going well. So that was really hard to take. And like, it really burnt. But I had to be like, I was just going to constantly keep feeding into this thing that was just never going to happen. And for me, that's why I say it to people, from a sense of wasting your time with somebody who is just going to take your time and your effort and your affection and your emotion. And two twos could end up married 6 months' time with the next girl that they get with. Like we have all seen it happen. So that's why I say, and it's not from a sense of being insensitive.
I think you're absolutely right. We have all been there, and I'm not even going to start on my stories, otherwise we'll be here for like 200 years. So on that note, thank you so much for watching and listening to Ethnically Speaking. Subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to like this video and leave a comment below. Ethnically Speaking, we'll see you soon. Bye.